This has been an interesting season. I don't think it has lived up to the high bar that was set for season 1 and 2, specifically season 2 for me. This finale, I don't think could save. There was no point where I thought this finale was going to save what I saw through the previous season 3 episodes. It had to do a hell of a lot, and I think it tried to do a hell of a lot with this finale, but it couldn't save the sour taste from the previous episodes. And I think that's for a multitude of reasons. And I think it had big moments. And some of the moments I think the writers thought were bigger than what the fans actually thought and saw and felt. But when it's all said and done, I don't know where we're headed in the future. It seems like we're recycling similar ideas that we've seen in previous Mando finales. Mando versus Moff Gideon, right? Bo-Katan and her fellow Mandalorians teaming up with Din Djarin, Grogu using the Force at the end for a spectacular moment. It feels like they're running out of ideas a little bit. I might be off base on that, but it seems like we're stalling a little bit until Dave Filoni's Mandoverse movie, and I don't know when that's coming. I assume we're going to get Mando season 4, but they have a lot of work to do before we get to that Mandoverse movie and season 4 in order to satisfy the fans. But yeah, Ricky, your thoughts on season 3 leading into the finale?
Well, I don't. Will we get a season 4 before the movie? I don't know about that.
I'm not sure because I know we have the Ahsoka series coming. It's
Right.
teasing Grand Admiral Thrawn. We can almost make an assumption that Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to be the main villain of the Mandoverse movie. Maybe we get the Ahsoka series, then we go into production for the Mandoverse.
That's what I was thinking because the finale of this episode of this season kind of put an end to like the Mandalorian and Grogu's journey. They're at like peace, so there's nothing really to write for another season without something happening, or they just, you said recycle, like I guess just you would have to write a whole new story, and I don't think they'll do that before a Mandoverse movie. So that's why I think this is the last season before that movie eventually comes out, especially because, like you said, Ahsoka to the movie just seems like a seamless transition rather than trying to jam pack another season of The Mandalorian where they just go on these adventures throughout a season. I guess like doesn't really add up to a movie.
Right. And you can't draw out the threat of Thrawn. Like Thrawn was already teased with the Shadow Council in the penultimate episode for the Mandalorian. So like we know he's coming in Ahsoka. We know there's going to be a lot of side, almost Siths or Jedis that become Siths in Ahsoka. So like those might be the main antagonists, and then Thrawn is looming in the background, or even stronger presence that than we've seen obviously in the Mandalorian. Because I mean, we saw the back of Thrawn's head in the damn Ahsoka trailer.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think, because they had Moff Gideon come back for all 3 of these seasons. I don't know if they can have a notable villain that Star Wars fans can look forward to, unless like Boba Fett all of a sudden becomes a villain once again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're going to do that. I feel like this is the end of the Mandalorian story until that Mandoverse movie. And I think it almost is better off that way, because you don't want those first 2 seasons like hitting an 8 or 9 out of 10. And then you can't have this one hitting like a 6 or 7, and then it just regresses from there. You want momentum going into the Mandoverse movie, and you almost can guarantee like Grogu and Din Djarin are going to be cameoing at least in some capacity of Ahsoka, right? Especially if we're not getting another like Mandalorian season.
Right. And I think more likely the situation would be is that we get a Mandalorian not the Mandalorian, but like a Mandalore series rather than another season of the Mandalorian.
Ooh, a Bo-Katan series potentially,
because her story is just beginning. They got back Mandalore. Now they got to build from the ashes on up, get Mandalore back and up and running again. So I could see a story there, but I don't see one with the Mandalorian. And just like you said, it's all about momentum to this movie, because especially with the box office, you got to make money at the box office. In Star Wars, you're going to make it. But especially after the last time Star Wars hit theaters, sure, the numbers were there, but fans were displeased, obviously, with the Rise of Skywalker. So you really got to hit home. You got to really hit this one, hit the nail on the head when you hit theaters. And I think if you don't have momentum going in, then it's already going to be a failure to fans. And we all know how sensitive Star Wars fans are. So I think the Ahsoka series has to hit, and then we just go right into the Mandoverse movie.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, we said like it's more of the same for this finale, and I don't think this finale was bad. I just want to make that clear. I don't. I thought
Yeah, it wasn't.
the season was mediocre. The finale had its moments, but I can't. We're gonna dive into some of like the big decisions that were made writing wise. But this whole season felt like it was like a stepping stone for the Bo-Katan character, and at some point she even felt like QB1. You know, like Grogu was put in the baby seat in the back, and Mando was riding shotgun, and Bo-Katan was driving this entire season. And it makes you think, like, do you want to keep driving up the presence of this character? Because we're going to have an Avenger-style team-up when it comes to the Mandoverse movie against Grand Admiral Thrawn. So it makes me kind of wonder, how long was this Mandoverse movie being conceived of? Like, how long did they know they were going to do this? And they wanted to build up Bo-Katan in this third season, potentially have her own series. Ahsoka gets her own series. And then it's almost like how we have those individual hero projects for Marvel, and then you have the eventual team up. Do you think this might have been like the plan all along? And like they were kind of just saying, we cross our fingers that people accept Bo-Katan is pretty much the lead in The Mandalorian?
I honestly don't think so. I think the first season was such a such a big success. Then they saw like, oh, we should build this out. Because like if you look at Star Wars at the time, like before season 1 of The Mandalorian, they were like, what should we do now? Like the sequel trilogy isn't going well, and the fans aren't happy with us. Like we have to finish Rise of Skywalker. What do we do? Let's make a Mandalorian series. And because Mandalorian, Boba Fett, a character people, Star Wars fans always wanted to see more of, we make a Mandalorian series with Filoni involved, Favreau involved. It's going to be successful, but they didn't know it was going to reach the level of notoriety as it is. Like there's a freaking thing at Disney World now with it, right? Like it's crazy. So I think they recognized that once the first season dropped, and then it's like, okay, let's do this Avengers style type thing here. And that's when we get the Ahsoka rumors start, and then we get everything else going. Bo-Katan gets in season 2, and so on and so forth. So I think it wasn't necessarily like the initial thought. They probably like said like, oh, we would be cool if we integrated other things like that were in Clone Wars and Rebels and whatnot. But I think that the overall premise didn't really start until they really got that notoriety.
Did you feel what I was saying though? That like Bo-Katan felt like almost the one that had the most satisfying arc that concluded at the end of the season, and she was a driving force of a lot of these episodes in my eyes. And Grogu, which we all want to see more of, and we want to see him expand his abilities with the Force, and we don't get it until the season finale. Right. And we've spent 3 seasons with Grogu. We want to see more of him and his capabilities, not just him as his play toy that people toss around like he's a freaking football. I
Right.
just, and Din Djarin, his relationship with Grogu at times also, it had moments, but it didn't seem like a focal point of a show that really centered around that relationship for the first 2 seasons. Like to me, did you feel, not to me, but did you feel Bo-Katan really is the quote unquote Mandalorian that is title to the show?
I think that's what it was written like. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was like, all right, let me restart. I think this season wasn't bad. I thought it was a good season of television, not necessarily from a writing standpoint and like a critically quality standpoint, but like Star Wars fans, adventurous, fun, exciting. Yes, the season hit home. But the problem is we had complete arcs basically for the Mandalorian and Grogu's relationship in season 1 and 2. You know, the ending of season 2, that probably should have been it. If we're being honest, that should have been it with the Mandalorian. And then you have like a Bo-Katan situation going. But they didn't, and they used Grogu this season as a toy, I felt like. The entire time. Underutilized the Force once again, but underutilized with the relationship. They tried to like hit home with the relationship, saying like, oh, he's going to be my son and like he'll be my apprentice. Never hit. And I think a part of that is because Bo-Katan was the lead, is the leader, but also like the driving force of the season. And like she awkwardly got the dark saber that one episode. That was just like, what? Like that's another point where I'm trying to say is just like the writing itself wasn't amazing this season, but it was an exciting season. So I can't call it bad, but like it just doesn't compare to seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I also think about those episodes of the Book of Boba Fett that were pseudo Mandalorian episodes in the middle of that season. Like, what if this season started off with those two episodes? Like, we would think so differently of this season, but you would have to change the overall writing that goes along with that. And it seems like they just made decisions where the stronger point of the story was Bo-Katan this season, whether you like it or not. And the dark saber, dude. I have mixed feelings about the dark saber.
Yeah, I have
I
gripes.
I will say I am glad it's destroyed because it was an absolute hindrance during this season. But at the same time, if Bo-Katan is QB1 and she was wielding that thing in episode 2 like she was, or episode 1, when she quote unquote took it from Din,
Yeah,
I was just like, what was this all for? Why?
right.
Like,
I
I wish you never had I wish this was never a thing because I just wanted to see Mando learn how to use it. And he always struggled with it. But that's what fans want. But it's just like Bo Katan, it's a source of leadership. She wants to hold it. I get why you destroyed it. It shows you don't need a sword to show that you can lead and bring together an entire
wasted
group
our
of
time.
people. And it's just like, she's good with it though. It looks sweet. Like, I mean, Star Wars, we want to see people wielding lightsaber type materials. She is like Kill Bill with that until she faces Moff Gideon. And Moff Gideon can just crush it with his new suit, his new Beskar suit. I was just like, all of a sudden, he's a better Mandalorian than
Yeah,
these guys. This geriatric Giancarlo Esposito is a better Mandalorian than Din, than Bo-Katan. This drove me insane.
yeah, the Beskar alloy, like, yeah, you have better materials, but same with Dim, but that doesn't make him the best Mandalorian. What makes him the best Mandalorian is because of his skills. And the Darth Saber, like, you got me going with it because I was going to bring it up, but in a calm, peaceful manner. But I don't know anymore because we saw the struggles with Din with it, and they made it into a huge storyline. They had the big guy, forget his name, he died 2 episodes ago, or the penultimate episode. He fought him for it. They made this into a huge thing. And then she just automatically gets it one episode. He just carried it around for an episode and a half, knowing that it should have been hers. So, like, low key didn't want to keep it. Obviously not, but like very bad writing there. And then she gets it and she has no struggles whatsoever to start. That makes no sense. I don't care if she's the rightful heir to it. You're not the rightful heir because you didn't earn it at the time. You know what I mean? Like, but when you do, you should have struggles with it. No struggles whatsoever. So you know what? That past storyline, throw it out the window. Poor writing on that part. And then you have Moff Gideon going with the final fight, saying, just give me the dark saber. I really want it. And then you really want something that you could just easily break with the saber you got right now. And he breaks it. And he goes, like, I don't need the dark saber. I'm like, you just asked for it 5 seconds ago. The writing was so bad on so many levels. And it's unbelievable how they're just getting away with this online.
Yeah, and I think it's because the dark saber has a point in Star Wars lore prior to the Mandalorian. So everyone wanted to see it like in live action, but when we got it, it was like, man, did we actually need this? Like, and it's like, if Mando isn't using it, why couldn't it have just been with Bo-Katan the entire time? Like, it just, to me, it was just like you had like that episode in the Book of Boba Fett where it's him. He has to have the one-on-one with that dude who wants to reclaim the saber right in
Like,
front of the armorer. So to me, it's like you made it a point of emphasis dating back to season one, end of
yeah,
season
like,
one throughout all of season 2, and then Din is pulling the Jon Snow where it's like, I don't want it the entire time, and you have the end of an episode, one of the worst episodes in the Mandalorian, arguably, with the Jack Black Lizzo episode. But the worst part of that episode wasn't Lizzo. It wasn't Jack Black. It was that awkward handoff that you talked about, and you're just like, I don't want to see the dark saber anymore. At least we
ruined
don't
it.
have to like argue over it, and Bo-Katan won't be drooling over it and craving it every time that Din's around.
But like, they made it seem like she could have been a great bad guy too. I know like Star Wars fans would have been fed up with it, but if you kind of wanted to get creative here and you wanted to add another season, another way they could have done it was this season. Moff Gideon's not a part of the picture, or maybe a little bit. You splash him in like they did in the first half, like saying like, "Oh, the Mandalorians escaped Moff Gideon." You do that at the end of the season, but during the season, it's Bo-Katan trying to get the dark saber from the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian's like, I see evil or something in you because you want this badly. I don't know. I'm just
Or fight over
spitballing here.
Mandalore,
Yeah.
like it's something like that where it's like maybe people don't like just she has her family there. She evacuated all the Mandalores from there. She has the background with Moff Gideon that they go over in this season that we really had no idea about until like this episode. What the backstory was exactly why she evacuated them. It's definitely the writing could have been better. And I wanted to kind of jump, unless you want to talk about more Bo-Katan. Like everyone was kind of guessing she was going to be the villain based off her actions in the trailers.
Mhm.
And then she ends up never being that whatsoever. Like it kind of was a misread or it's a miscommunication by those who created the trailer. Moff Gideon, let's talk about it because right when they said that he escaped the ship, I was like, oh no, oh no. We're not going to get like a Thrawn appearance. We just get the name drop at the Shadow Council meeting, and he goes through his plan from season 1 to clone himself, and then you get a lot of like monologues from him during this episode. Like basically, this is my evil plan. I am going to clone myself and I'm going to make myself force sensitive and create an army of Moff Gideons. And I was just like I don't care. You
Yeah,
built up
they put him in a
nothing.
bad. They put Giancarlo in a bad spot with that dialogue.
Yeah, it's just like you felt like this monologue is worthless. I feel nothing because you haven't built up Moff Gideon this season whatsoever, and we kind of thought we were done with him, you know. So, like, what do you think about the handling of Moff Gideon in this like season? Did he bring anything to the table that we found necessary, or what?
It wasn't necessary. Of course, it wasn't. This whole like none of this is necessary, but we're getting it because we want it. Like we want more Star Wars stuff, because we have an interest. Now with Moff Gideon, Giancarlo has that presence. You can't deny it. So it's there. And the suit, his Beskar alloy suit, does look cool. All his assistants or whatever, soldiers, they look cool. But I think, end of the day, did we really need him? No. But we could have done something different. And they just threw a lot of information at us in this last episode about his plans when they could have built it up over the season. But instead, they wanted to be like, oh, he escaped halfway through the season. Halfway through the season, they go, oh, he escaped. It's like, all right. And then they quickly just laid everything out on us the last couple of episodes. So it's like, oh, Jesus. Like, what the hell? What happened? And then, like, spoilers, right? We could do spoilers here.
Yeah, reaction.
And then they don't show an on-screen death.
Which dude,
if he comes back again, we might have a problem.
There was a line where Mando was talking to Grogu after Mando escapes. Grogu saves him from those guards at the beginning of the episode. He goes like, "We have to take care of this now. We have to eliminate him." And I'm like, "You're speaking for all of us, dude. You need to get rid of Moff Gideon now, so we can just like put this. We don't have to ever see him again." But you're right. He's wearing a Beskar suit. He gets caught on fire. How many times have we seen Din like flames go through him and nothing happens? I'm just like, damn. We're like, if he makes an appearance in the Mandoverse movie, I'm actually gonna be a little bit upset. I'm gonna be a little bit upset.
Kill this man.
Yes, this guy. He like. I want to know, Moff Gideon. Where does he rank all time like villains? Star Wars main antagonist. So we're talking like Palpatine. We're talking Vader. We're talking Dooku, General Grievous, Darth Maul. Like even Snoke. Let's put him in there. Kylo Ren. I think he's last. I honestly think he's last.
Yeah, it probably is. I can't really think. Darth Maul's cool. You can't deny.
Maul. He doesn't say anything, but he's still like, I'd rather see him on screen than Moff Gideon. I would dude, people were talking about Darth Maul potentially showing up. I would have jumped out of my couch. Like, oh my God, Darth Maul.
I jumped out of my couch when he made that last appearance in Solo.
Like, honestly, I think he is like the worst villain that I would want to. He's the villain I would least want to see on screen. And it's not because of Giancarlo Esposito. It's just like his abilities, like it's just like he has no abilities. He's just someone that craves power. He's like a Lex Luthor. I think that's why people want to see him as Lex Luthor because of his performance as Moff Gideon. So I just thought, and like with the cloning stuff, like now it made me understand because one of the weaker episodes in my eyes as well this season was the spy episode. With
what was that point? I don't get that.
Not the penultimate titled spies, but like Dr. Pershing wiping
Yeah,
his
right.
brain. I
What
was
was the
just
point of that?
let's think. So that was the clone, a callback to like this might be on the table, and then also the man that could spread like the word about cloning, right, is taken out, right? The one that could say I was assisting Moff Gideon and doing this, and I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just
Poor. It's the only thing I could think of is like, oh, a few things. One, we know who the inside spy is in the New Republic, but like you're not going to dedicate a whole episode to that just for that reveal. So then, all right, what's the other reason? The cloning reveal at the end that we just mocked.
yeah.
Those are really the only two things. Like I think that was basically a waste of an episode. The definition of a filler episode. And that episode got so much praise online. And I was just thinking, like it's not bad structurally, but out of a season of The Mandalorian,
Did it sense a purpose?
there was
Overall.
no sense of purpose whatsoever. That's why, like this season, like on Wednesday, I still was excited about this finale because at the end of the day, we're having fun. This like Star Wars lore, stuff like that. But when the finale doesn't hit, then you nitpick because then it really crumbles the rest of the season. You didn't bring it home, so then you nitpick all around. And honestly, they're not nitpicks, they're flaws. Just downright flaws.
I just think the lack of focus left, where it was like this became all of a sudden about Mandalore. It became a lot about Bo-Katan and her bringing back and bringing together the Mandalorians. And when the first season, when they had these divert missions, these different journeys, these one episode journeys, it's not as bad because it's Mando getting to know Grogu and them establishing their relationship. But here it's when we have like these divert episodes going off, like something that doesn't seem like it has a lot of relevance to the entirety of the show. It's like there's still not much, like Grogu isn't really a part of it. Like Grogu is just there for the ride. He's sitting on someone's lap, right? He's the comic relief. When at this point, my disappointment really is that we didn't get like Grogu with those abilities that he showed in the season finale all season. Dude, in Book of Boba Fett, he's coming off training with Luke Skywalker, and you saw it in the Book of Boba Fett. Dude, he looked great, right? He looked great at the combine. He was jumping, he was going on paddles, he's lifting frogs, and then it's just like his powers disappear. It's like, why don't we want to show him do this? He does one battle against a child Mandalorian and then smokes him. I'm just like, he's getting older. It's not like shouldn't be regressing, or you should be showing that he's becoming a stronger Jedi, especially if you're building to, right, him at the end of this show, like where you have that shot in the circle, him lifting the frog, where it's like, oh, he's back to his abilities with Luke. I'm like, where'd they go in the first place?
All right. I warned you this, man. I warned you. Two things. One, should never come back with the Mandalorian. Should never. Terrible mistake. It was a egregious mistake. And two, I also told you regression.
They pick up Grogu at the beginning of the Mandoverse movie, and it's just a full blown Jedi. That'd be sick.
He would need to leave the Mandalorian because if you're not with the Force and you're not properly trained, you progressively lose it. That's going to happen. You don't just keep your powers and your ability to wield them as strong as you do if you don't use them all the time and you're not trained to properly enhance them and focus with them in the discipline. He's going to progressively get worse with the Force. It sucks, but it's true. And this season, I don't know if it proved it, but it just shows how egregious of a mistake. Like Grogu, like honestly, fun, like great little guy. Don't care about him in the Mandalorian anymore because they don't show him. They don't show him using anything.
Well, they did like the season finale. They did. Let's talk about season finale.
But like it wasn't this I want to see him grab a guy and chuck him against the wall, and they're out.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. He's got
not
a
enough.
Cannon. Hold the
not
phone.
enough.
Got a cannon. I think this was a big Grogu episode. It was. This was the biggest that we got all season, and the fact that he saves Din, right, in the MI11 machine. I think it was MI11, whatever it is. He's in the droid. And first of all, I didn't love him in the droid. I'm like, he doesn't need a droid. He's a Jedi. Like he doesn't need a droid. Like he was training like with Luke Skywalker.
That was so painful.
But it's just like painful. When he left it, it's still like he doesn't have a weapon. He doesn't have a lightsaber. He doesn't have a gun once that droid is destroyed. And to see him hop around and use the Force, it felt like it was all starting to come together. but I'm like, it's a little bit late because you haven't
Too
been
late.
teasing that he has like this potential the entire season. He hasn't been using the Force whatsoever. And all of a sudden, like he's going to work. And I did like seeing him play off Mando when he go against those 3 red guards that are like the ones from The Last Jedi. And those are really formidable type of guards. And when they took him out, I was like, hey, this is like what I wanted to see all season. I wanted to see this 1-2 punch, Batman and Robin. And we only got it for about 30 seconds. But then when we talk about moments in this finale, it really did feel like a finale in a lot of moments where you have obviously using the Force, shielding Bo-Katan and Mando from the fire with the Force shield. I thought that was an incredible moment. Incredible moment. And I think that's the primary one. But what they also did, and I didn't think it was a big deal, but it felt like very much a season finale type of thing, is when they said Mando goes up to the armorer and says, I want to make Grogu my apprentice, and I want to do it by making him my son. I'm like, dude, you're already his dad. Like this, you're just saying this, and you're looking for a moment here. It was a heartwarming moment, sort of, but it's like you were already his dad. Like everyone calls you his dad. Now it's just like he's officially going to be a Mandalorian, but we always knew he was under him anyway. Like Mando was sort of training him this entire time, so I didn't think that was a big deal either. And then I do want to jump. Anything to add on that before?
I totally agree with everything you said.
I do want to talk about some of the action sequences aside from the Force from Grogu, aside from the one-on-one Bo-Katan versus Moff Gideon. The aerial sequences with the armorer, that was sick. That was sick with the armorer going ham in the air, right? That like with the almost like Thor type of like hammer that she's throwing, and people just
yeah.
To me, that was an incredible moment as well. This was a big season for the armorer. Big season for the armorer.
Bringing everyone together, basically. Bringing Bo-Katan to bring everyone together.
In the first 2 seasons, I thought the armorer was a great like guest appearance, and I thought whoever plays the armorer, I think does an incredible job. I think they nail the performance, like the subtle movements, the voice, and I do think like we're gonna see more of her in the future. I feel like she has it going on for Bo-Katan, right? Don't you sense like a little bit lesbian vibes there? Say it again.
Emily Swallow.
Okay, gotcha. But don't you feel like she's got it going on for her? she likes Bo-Katan.
I don't know.
I feel like there's a little romantic like feeling. I think it's a one-way street though. I feel like Bo-Katan could say, "I'm not into that, but I get you."
I don't know. I guess a little bit. Yeah, I think it's just more desperation. Like you got to bring everyone together. I don't know if it's about.
She's like, "Come step into my office. Like, come to the armory." And then
she's just like, bang, bang on helmets.
Yeah, you could have told me this in front of everybody, but no, I needed to have you like in the armory alone. All right. So, any other thing that we want to talk about here, Ricky Flicks, before we move on to the Max checkup? Anything else that maybe you liked or like? Because I feel like we've been pretty down on this. I didn't think it was as bad as kind of we let on.
Yeah, I think you got you pushed my buttons a little bit. Like you got my ideas flowing around.
You know what really grinds Ricky Flicks' gears?
Grogu.
Talk about the Darksaber and Grogu.
Grogu underutilization. That is what really grinds my gears.
I wanted to talk F5. That was a good moment too. That was a season finale type of moment. The droid who is letting Mando go, he's fighting off the little baby droids from Moff Gideon, and he faces his fear. One from like the first episode, I believe. Or second episode.
That was.
I thought I was like, that's a good droid moment. I'm like, that's a season finale type of thing we're looking for.
You know, it was a big mistake. They should have. I agree with you, by the way. But after he defeats that last droid, he should have about to walk into like that main platform area. Moff Gideon should have came out right away, and then they're fighting on that bridge.
Oh yeah, that's a moment.
That and like you have the red lights around, you have like some fog going. That was what they should have done. That like Star Wars hallway scenes, like obviously won't be Darth Vader-esque, but it would have brought that like intensity up a little bit. It would have got my blood level pumping a little more.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's something about beams in Star Wars and people wielding weapons. Like We need that. And it's a little tough when you're not force sensitive and you really got to rely on your balance. I don't think Moff Gideon, as a 65-year-old man, would do too well in that type of setting. But I guess like you could just use the rocket, like the jetpack. Boom, you're up there. I want to talk about one more thing. Just thought of it. The end of this episode, the end of the season, Mando is with Grogu, and he's working for the New Republic as a bounty hunter, right? Kind of getting
Independent contractor
he's getting paid under the table, right? No doubt. But he's cleaning his act up a little bit, wants
with
to
the
become
Texas.
a somewhat government agent, right? So he's not like just killing people relentlessly and just strictly for money.
Well, it's
Like
for
so that
the
when he has
kid.
it,
Safer
well,
for Grogu.
yeah, when he has a kid now, I felt like almost like real world type thing where it's
Yeah.
like I got to clean up my act. I have a kid now. He's officially my kid. He's my responsibility. So I thought that was kind of touching, heartwarming. Any other final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, overall, I thought it was overall a good season. Just obviously subpar compared to what we got in season 2 and season 1. Hard to come back after those. And I think because season 2 was such a banger after what season 1 was, I think the expectations were sky high, rightly so, because they were able to follow up season 1 with an even better season 2. And I don't think I was expecting season 3 to be better than season 2, but I just was expecting it to be, I guess, back to season 1 level of quality, which it wasn't, especially from a story perspective.
And I would have liked Lil Thrawn. Throw Lil Thrawn in there. And if I had to compare it, season 1 of The Mandalorian is The Avengers. Season 2 is a lower
And
scale Infinity War Endgame. And then season 3 of Mandalorian is Age of Ultron. Still enjoyable. Writing doesn't make sense at times,
yeah,
right? But still had a good time watching this
I
finale.
like this. Yeah, it's in the if we're doing the Avengers tiers, that's spot on.
All right, perfect. That's going to do it for our reactions to the season finale of The Mandalorian.